Hello, I'm George Anderson from runningbygeorge.com and I'm the official training partner with the Reading Half Marathon 2015. If you head over to readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk, you can download a copy of one of the training programs that I've written to help you prepare perfectly for next year's Reading Half Marathon on March 22nd. Now you'll notice there are 3 programs to choose from. One if you're aiming for between 1 hour 30 and 2 hours. There's a program if you're aiming for between 2 hours and 2 hours 30, and then there's a get you round schedule as well. If you're not really worried too much about time or you're looking for something that's beyond the 2 hour 30 mark. Many runners will finish the race in that sort of time, but the training you need to do is a little bit different to that for somebody who's looking for a 1 hour 30 finish time. The first thing you'll notice is that there are 12 weeks in the program and only 3 sessions of running a week. Now that freaks a lot of people out to begin with, but I'll tell you the reason for that in a moment. But those 3 sessions are very specific with what I want you to do in them. There's also a body conditioning workout that I've recommended, and you can choose what you do with that, whether you do a run specific weights workout, body weight workout, or it may be a class, or just some other form of cross training. But the runs are just 3 a week. The reason for that is because half marathon training is about 2 things. It's about giving your body the intensity and the training stimulus to give it the adaptations to get fitter and faster and better at endurance and better at coping over hills and being able to go on for longer and longer at your target time. That's the one side. The other side of half marathon training is being recovered enough so that when you get to the start line on Sunday, March 22nd, you are ready to go. And if you peak too early or if you're overtraining and you're finding that you're getting injured, then you've missed out on that side. Now most runners will do really well with one of those things and not the other. Many runners will train really hard and then get injured or be fatigued by the time they get to the start line. And many runners will do really well with the recovery, but they won't do so well with the training. So we want to get the balance, the perfect balance. And in my experience, 3 runs a week for most runners is the sweet spot. Now, that's not to say this is going to be an easy schedule. The idea is that you work hard when you're working. So you're putting in 3 runs a week, but they're very specific. And my little adage whenever I train for a race is not just to make every run count, but to make every footstep of every run count. Every run, every session over the 12-week period is a part of the jigsaw. Each run has got a specific purpose to take you from where you are now with your current half marathon running capabilities to where you want to be. So you set up your goals and you train towards it, and each session will make a difference. If it didn't, then I wouldn't have put it in the training program in the first place. So rest assured, whatever you're doing is going to be making a difference. Now, if you happen to miss a session or 2, then don't worry about that. The sessions are progressive. The program builds up over the 12-week periods. It's got a recovery week at week 5, and then it starts to taper off a little bit for weeks 10, 11, and the final week 12. If you miss a week, or if you miss a week, then you're stuffed. You've got to give up. Just kidding. If you miss a whole week, then you might need to make a couple of adaptations to the program. If you happen to miss a session, then it's not the end of the world. Don't freak out about it, because you might find that actually your body could do with that extra bit of recovery. And very few people will get in every single session. Do it if you can, but don't worry if you miss the odd one here and there. I would highly, highly encourage you to only miss sessions if you absolutely have to. If you want to squeeze in an extra session, then you can get away with that once or twice, but you wouldn't want to be doing that regularly. So if you happen to have to put 2 sessions back to back, that's okay, but then the next week make sure you spread them out as evenly as I have done on the program. You can change the order, you can play around with the days. They don't have to be stuck to religiously as to exactly how I've written it on the program schedule itself, but try and loosely follow it as much as you can so that at least you're getting the right sessions in the right week, and then you're moving on because it does progress. Something else you might notice about the program is that we run to time. We don't run specific distances, we run a specific number of minutes. And in particular, that's important for the long run, where you might have in previous half marathon or 10K or marathon incarnations, you might have tried to run to a specific distance. Now the problem with that, it's okay, it can work, obviously many programs are written like that, but the problem with it is that if you're a 2-hour 30 runner or a 2-hour runner, then running 10 miles is going to take you very different lengths of time if you're running at the correct pace, which I'll come on to in just a second. So by running to time, then you're getting the same amount of time on your feet, you're building up the same exposure to the stresses that are going to make you a better half marathon runner, but you're not overtraining, you're not overdoing it. One of the biggest mistakes half marathon runners make is to do too much and leave a lot of their best work out there on the training roads. So again, they come to the race itself and there's a lot of fatigue and tiredness in the legs. We don't want that. You want to be on that start line like a caged animal, ready to unleash all that half marathon potential over the 13.1 miles around the beautiful city of Reading. So that's what we want, and the way we're going to do that is by taking a timed approach. Now, I mentioned pace a moment ago as well. Really, really important that you get your pacing right for each of these runs. I talk about fast runs, I talk about intervals, I talk about continuous hills, and I talk about this easy pace. And then, of course, we've got race pace as well. Now, the only pace you know for certain is your race pace, because if you have a target in mind, let's say you're aiming for 2 hours, then you know that your race pace is 9 minutes and 9 seconds per mile. That's unarguable. You cannot question that that's your race pace. But then we work out our other paces off the ground, off the basis of that. So your easy pace, this is the pace you're going to be running your long runs at. This is going to be probably around about 60 to 90 seconds a mile slower than your race pace. So that means if you're a 2-hour half marathon runner, or that's your target time, race pace 9:09, target pace for your slow, easy runs is going to be in the region of 10:09 to 10:39, maybe even up to as far as 11 minutes a mile. Now that is going to feel very slow. Half marathon running at the beginning of the race, it feels slow. So imagine taking a minute and a half off that per mile. It's going to feel almost painfully slow, but you must slow down. These runs are about building an aerobic base of endurance. If you go too fast because you're able to, then what happens is you come out of that pure aerobic base building zone and you start building up a little bit of intensity, so much so that you don't get quite the benefits and the gains that you need to get in terms of aerobicness. You're also not going to get the gains from threshold running, which I'll come on to in a second because that's the faster runs. So you're somewhere in the middle here. So yes, you'll get some gains, but you're not going to get optimum gains. Some of the runs will have easy running and then a period of time as race pace. They're nice runs because you get to test out yourself over on your race pace. But most of the time, easy run pace, take it really slow and enjoy the ride. This is the easy, it's meant to be easy. It's called easy running for a reason, but it wants to be easy and it wants to leave you at the end of that run feeling as though you could have gone faster and you don't have to then spend the rest of the day lounging around on the couch because you've destroyed yourself. Mentioned about threshold running just a second ago. Threshold running or your faster pace runs, these are normally in blocks of say 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 12 minutes and so on. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4 blocks of these with a rest period in between. The idea of this is that you build up your pace so that you're working at an intensity that would allow you to get 3, maybe 4 words at a time out your mouth if you had to. If you can hold a conversation, then you're not working hard enough. If you can't even get a single word out, and if you can get a word out, it's a rude word, then you're working too hard. So you're looking for somewhere in between the two. Think of threshold running as 8 to 8.5 out of 10 on a 1 to 10 intensity scale. 10 is absolute eyeballs out, can't work any harder. 1 is going for a nice casual walk, and you want to be 8 to 8.5. So you're working, but it's manageable, it's controlled, it's comfortably uncomfortable. 3 or 4 words at a time if you had to. That's your threshold intensity, and it's going to change as you go. So it's not a set pace, it's a set intensity. Your pace is going to vary as you go. So don't get too tracked down by your Garmin or your Timex or whatever it is you're using to track your pace if you are indeed. Use that as a reference point, but don't don't run from your watch. What I mean by that is if you start thinking, well, great, I'm running at 8-minute mile pace, there's my threshold, then you start getting tired and it's more effort to hold that 8-minute mile pace, or you hit a hill on your run and obviously your intensity is going to creep up there and you have to keep going faster in order to keep 8-minute mile pace, then you've got it wrong, because you want to keep the intensity the same and the pace is going to be variable as you go. It's going to change during the session and it's going to change session to session, it'll change week to week. The next thing I want you to think about is your hill running. In the first block of the program, the first 4 weeks, we've got a series of hills. These are continuous hills. And the way I want you to approach these is to find your hill and go up and down at a continuous pace. It's not a hill sprint where you're leathering up the hill and then coming back down again with a walk or an easy jog. It's controlled up, controlled back down. You need to find a hill that's going to allow you to run up and down without changing your technique significantly. And that's important because you want to be able to maintain this form up and down the hill. So don't pick something that's too steep, but it wants to be a little bit challenging as well. And you're going to keep going up and down the hill for the 8 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever is on the schedule. Rest then for a couple of minutes, and when you take these rest periods, whether it's in the intervals or the continuous hills or the faster runs, then don't be afraid to walk. Walking is absolutely fine. Walk even in the continuous hills, maybe even stand still, jog on the spot, mince around, just get yourself relaxed and recovered, ready to go again. The idea is that you recover so that you can hit it hard again. If you're out for a run and it's just a normal interval session, or it's a normal fast-paced interval session, the threshold runs, then you can just slow down and jog, so you're just changing your pace constantly through the run. The last long run of the program is 3 weeks before the race. Now those last 3 weeks are really important because that's where your body really adapts. And if you spent time building up progressively over the preceding 9 weeks, then those last 3 weeks are going to be really, really important. So don't try and squeeze in missed sessions into those 3 weeks. You're still going to be training, but the volume is going to be vastly reduced compared to what you had been doing in the previous weeks. So take a note of the program. The program works, by the way. This isn't just something I've written out and hope it works. This is tried and tested. Many runners on the Intelligent Half Marathon program, from which this is adapted, have had sensational results with this. You'll also notice there's a 10K time trial within the program as well. This is where you get to test yourself out. And many runners who have done this program before have found that they've amazed themselves by actually running a 10K PB, a personal best ever time for 10K, within the confines of a half marathon training program. It's that effective. Remember, this is about two things: about getting the right training load so that you get the adaptations, and it's about getting the right recovery so that you get to the start line with as much energy and readiness to race as possible. Make sure you get yourself over to readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk. Get yourself onto the email list there, download your training program, because between now and the race, I am going to be sharing many, many more insights into getting the most out of your half marathon training, from the workouts, the body conditioning, nutrition, and almost more importantly than anything else, motivation. Because if you ain't motivated, you ain't training. If you ain't training, you ain't getting the results. Good for the recovery, but not so good for the adaptations. So I'll be helping you keep on track with webinars and social media interactions with the Facebook group and various emails along the way to make sure that 2015 is your year for absolutely dominating the Reading Half Marathon. I'm George Anderson from runningbygeorge.com. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'm excited for you, and I'm glad that I'm going to be a part of your journey for the next few weeks. Bye for now.